Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 12th, 2023 meeting of the business meeting of the Tacoma Public Schools Board of Directors. Call this meeting to order, and if everyone would please rise and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Tacoma Public Schools acknowledges that we are on the traditional and ancestral historical lands of the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Puyallup Tribe. This acknowledgement serves as a first step in honoring our nearest tribal neighbors and partners who have inhabited this region since time immemorial and to whom we give thanks for allowing us passage to their lands. We shall intentionally create inclusive and respectful partnerships that honor Indigenous cultures, histories, identities, and socio-political realities. So, General Counsel, would you, Benro, would you please call the roll?
Yes. President Bumbright?
Here.
Vice President Strozier?
Here.
Director Leon?
Here.
Director Keating?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. The first point of order is the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, questions, additions, changes to the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Passes 4-0. Item number 6, recognition of staff, students, and community. 6.1, state holidays and civic observances. I'm turning it back to the General Counsel to take us through the long list of October civic observances.
Yes. So October 2nd is Child Health Day. October 8th is Washington State Children's Day. Both of these are legislatively recognized days. One is federal, the other is state. On these days, we recognize that children are of paramount importance to our state and nation, and that they represent hope for our future. On Children's Day and Child Health Day, we recognize the importance that we place on families, schools, health professionals, and caregivers to carry out their important charge for the protection of our children, to listen to them, to support and encourage them, and to help them build their dreams for the future. Tomorrow's the last day of National School Lunch Week. School Lunch Week is a recognition of the National School Lunch Program, which provides nutritionally balanced, low-cost or no-cost breakfast and lunches in our schools, which improves our children's health and well-being. On School Lunch Week, we recognize that school meals are one of the most powerful ways in which we promote children's health and reduce child hunger. I had a conversation with one of our fine principals, Zach Varnell, and our head of nutrition services, Paul Harris, and learned that last year, in the 22-23 school year, our nutrition services department served approximately 4 million meals across the 180 days of the school year last year. About 4 million.
Go nutrition team.
Yeah, go nutrition services, that's a lot. Disability History and Awareness Month is in October as well. On this month, Washington's legislature sets forth that school districts in Washington shall conduct or promote educational activities that provide education, awareness, and understanding of people with disabilities. The legislature provides that these activities may include assemblies or guest speakers in classrooms. And some of the resources around projects that folk can do at home or at schools around Disability History and Awareness Month can be found on OSPI's website and on the website for AWSP, which is the Association of Washington School Principals. So some project resources on there. And finally, we have Filipino American History Month in the month of October. This month, Washington legislature declares that the writings and teachings of American history have often overlooked the role of people of color, among them the history of Filipino Americans, whose heritage spans a rich cultural relationship with the United States. During the month of October, we recognize the critical economic, cultural, and social contributions by Filipino Americans to Washington State and the United States. And those are our observances.
Thank you. Busy month in October. All right. Well, now we'll welcome to the podium our CFO to do the 6.2 recognition of the Purchasing Department receiving the 2023 Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award.
Thank you. I'm going to invite the team to join me up here. In 1995, the National Procurement Institute, NPI, established a program designed to recognize organizational excellence in public procurement. And the Achievement of Excellence in Procurement is an award that's given out annually. This prestigious award is earned by those organizations that demonstrate excellence by obtaining a high score based on standardized criteria. And the criteria are designed to measure innovation, professionalism, productivity, e-procurement, and leadership attributes of the procurement organization. The Tacoma School District Purchasing Department is one of 17 school districts and 171 agencies in the United States and Canada to receive this award, and it's the 14th year in a row that they've received this award. Yes, I know, it's very exciting. This notable achievement for the team, led by Purchasing Director Cherie Estrada, who I'll have come up in a moment, continues to be an amazing achievement for us, and we're super proud, very proud of our team. Because of this award, we've saved millions of taxpayer dollars through innovative purchase strategies, and we've brought positive public attention to our organization based on this. So with that, I'd like to hand this over to Cherie and say a great thank you to the team.
Good evening. First and foremost, I just want to thank my team. Without them, we wouldn't have the purchasing department that we do have. So I just want to quickly introduce them. This is Shelby, Mary, Jessica, Deborah, and then Lori couldn't be with us tonight. So just without them, they do amazing work. They come every day. They're willing to just do what it takes to make purchasing available for the students and the staff and get to yes as we need to, while just trying to improve and make processes that really benefit everyone. And we use this award actually as a gauge for where we're at every year when what we're doing, are we making improvements, are we kind of staying static? So while it's wonderful to earn this award, it's also just used to improve our department year after year. So thank you.
Well, thank you all, each and every one of you. Every day, the hard work that you do makes our job up here as board directors so much easier, knowing that we've got a team of people who are not just competent, they're exceptional. And so thank you very much for everything you do to make our lives easier and to make sure that this district runs smoothly and that we're being fair to our contractors and vendors. So thank you very much. Now, you guys want to come up and take a picture with us? Let's do that.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do. They've got a bunch of them lined up from years past. Heavy. All right, you guys just go right there. Get my head right there. Ready? Everybody look back.
You're the one with the award.
Don't hide, Mary.
There. All right, thank you guys. Another round of applause. All right, item number 7.
Madam President, before you go there, I just want to thank Director Estrada and the team. There's some subtleties in that process. You know, we purchase a lot, goods and services. And every dollar that is saved or reinvested back into the community is more impact that we have. Those jobs are, they're not always the most popular jobs when you say, hold on, there's a different way that may not appear to be as fast. But what we've learned is through their leadership, and you can see by the number of years that they are acknowledged, that we should all have a lot of trust in their system because it is making a difference. And so I just wanted to once again say thank you. Thank you for saving resources that can be reinvested back into kids. There is never enough, but when you have a team that is constantly trying to find more from what the opportunities that we have, it really makes a difference. And so these are folks that I just want to say thank you once again to.
Thank you. Okay, one more round of applause for our great team. All right, item number 7, Superintendent's Report. We have none unless there's something you want
Just
to add.
quick thank you. It's October already. I've had some opportunities to be out in schools like all of you folks have. So much good and excitement, but there's a few shout outs. If you haven't been to Mount Tahoma in a while, go out to Mount Tahoma. Not only what they're doing outside the classroom with extracurricular activities, but just the feel of bell-to-bell instruction the teaching staff, the support staff is just doing an amazing job there, trying to reach and support kids at a whole new level. Arlington, go out and see Arlington. I was out in Arlington on Friday, and there was a team member from Catholic Services working with a young man, talking to him about how does he respond when he feels anxious. He felt safe in a place to do that. There was teaching staff that were rolling up their sleeves saying, how are we going to intentionally plan on our next steps? And it was just so impressive to see how they were working as a team to try to say, hey, we don't have all the answers, but we do know that this is our best next answer. And that was just exciting. Bernie's growing. If you haven't seen Bernie, as some schools maybe do not have the same enrollment as they previous, Bernie is growing. And so we're working with the Bernie community to try to figure out ways to find them some more space during this time. And so really appreciate their patience. And then finally, I got a chance to spend some time with the Larchmont team last week sometime. Educators take all kinds of roles. And the nutrition services team out at Larchmont, I know they don't want to be called out individually, but the 3 staff members that work in there, in that kitchen, helping our youth be a part of a community, learn lessons on how do we, what's our own self-awareness, how are we working with each other. They're very inspiring. And so if you get a chance, and then managing that with all their day-to-day tasks, and not only serving portion of those 4 million meals, but prepping those meals, cleaning up after those meals. And then, of course, Sean, who's an amazing custodial member in that team as well. So just want to take a quick moment to say those are small samples of all the staff members. And I obviously have been to other schools, and there are other folks that are doing amazing work. But it's not lost on me how hard from every role our team works. And so I'm extremely grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone out there. I know this beginning of this school year we've been going great guns since day one and prepping before that. So thank you to all the staff that are out there every day, making it easier for our kids to learn. All right, item number 8, staff report to the board. 8.1, benchmark report, annual early learning 3rd grade. And up, Mr. Edmonds comes.
Good evening.
We've got some background vocals here to support your,
Oh,
your
yes.
work. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's great.
I kind of miss it around my house versus my teens. So we'll be going through our early learning benchmark for 3rd grade SBA math and ELA. Let me also remind, some of our SBA scores show up in our first benchmark goal of academic excellence as well for upper grades. But tonight we'll focus on that early learning piece. So kicking off, for English language arts, the priority benchmark, you'll see 2 bars here, the top one being the spring of last year, and then the year prior. And you'll see when we look at our different levels, that are green, or level 3 and level 4, make up the students who've passed the state assessment, and that combined score is 42%. It is down by 1% from last year, or the prior year actually, which is 43. But I also want to note, if you look to the left of that, you'll see 4% less students. So when we test, one of the things in that gray are the students who didn't complete. So we do our best to stay mid-90s-ish and higher of students participating in the SBA, and we had more students participate last year as well, which could be one of the factors we see in that performance. And then when we look at our district scores versus the Washington State, you can see on the left there 2022 spring, the state at 47, we're at 43. You come across, the state saw a 1% change. So even for us as a district, looking across at other 3rd grades in Washington, you just don't see a significant shift last year on the SBA, either up or down. And so we know folks are out there working hard to get us there, and we'll kind of unpack a little bit of that as we go. Looking at a little deeper by our different student groups, across each of our federal race codes, as well as gender, our ELL students, free and reduced lunch, and special ed. We see, and these look a little different, right? So we saw a 1% drop overall, but we know that our populations are different size. So when you start thinking about the actual count of kids that make up the 5% drop in, say, American Indian, Alaska Native, which is about 1% of our population. And so we kind of just plug that. Different groups, different sizes have different impacts. We did see an increase in our Hispanic population, as well as our males, our ELL, which make up about 11% of our population, and then our free and reduced lunch group as well saw a small increase in English language arts. Again, the English language arts is both the reading and writing portion of the exam. On the math side, kind of same thing, right? We group our level 3 and level 4 students. So in spring of 23, we see a combined 42% performance. For the year prior to that, we were at 40, so we saw an increase of 2%. We also saw an increase of 2% of our students participating in the state assessment as well. Carrying that again, comparing our state with our district performance. In this case, you see the state go 49 to 50, a 1% increase, and in Tacoma, we were able to see a 2% increase year to year. So again, not huge jumps at either level, district and state, as we engage kids in these state assessments. Unpacking that by, again, our student groups, we actually see in a small population a large increase of 17% for our American Indian, Alaska Native. And as we went up 2%, different than ELA, you see lots of groups having more than a 2% jump contributing to that. So our Hispanic population at 5% increase, Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander at 7% increase, 2 or more race at 3%, and then dropping down to our males at 2%, ELL 16%, another big jump. Our free and reduced lunch students, which is about 57% if we look at last year's numbers, seeing a 6% increase, and in our special ed, also going up 1%. With that, in our key findings, on the ELA side, again, we saw a 1% decrease year over in state. Nothing significant on our end or much different than what we saw at a state level. I do want to point out this state exam has evolved a little bit. So during COVID, we had a window for 2 years where we didn't take the exam. If you go back, I know we showed you the 21-22 data. We actually took it twice, because that's what every kid wants to do. And we saw the test even change from what it used to be of 40 questions, drop to 25 questions. There used to be a performance task. They dropped that in 21-22, but they brought it back last year. So even the test the students took last year was a little more robust than the year prior, but different than they took 3 years ago and 4 years ago. So it's a different engagement each time we kind of bring kids, which, right, I see the staff do a great job of kind of adjusting what that looks like for a testing environment as well. With that, then, for next steps on ELA, quite a bit has changed. So you had Director Tammy Larson was up here from CNI. We've rolled out a new ELA curriculum at the elementary level. And so we piloted last year. We went through RFP, and now Savas, MyView, launched this fall. We launched some of that training even as far as back as June, again in August. We continue to build out that PD and support for teachers, administrators, and coaches. And so this is our first go at having a ELA, which is both a reading and writing curriculum tied together. One of the things we also looked at is what does that look like on intervention? So working with Title I department, they have also brought in some new reading intervention materials and a tight schedule with Title I LAP teachers to help support kids that need that second or third tier of support. And in that tiers, when we talk about like MTSS or that multi-tiered support system for kids, we really have been engaged with principals and in staff trying to rethink how we even block out time, right? It's a 6.5-hour student day. We got to do some lunch. We have our morning meetings. We got to get to our specialists and elective classes. And then where do we fit in our core, our whole group reading, our small group? And so we really thought through our schedules to maximize those minutes so that we could still have 60 minutes of reading, 45 minutes of writing, additional support time for kids that needed it, and still have full 70-minute math block and time for number sense. So we're really getting into those schedules this year and thinking through how we even provide that time. And then again, CAP, going back 3 years, we shifted CAP to get down to that priority standard level. And in that same tiered structure, having teams identify what are we doing for the whole group, what are our small group needs, and then who are the students that need intervention, and writing plans out basically for about half the year in 2 different windows. And then we continue to use our formative assessments and work to just make sure we're monitoring student progress. On the math side, the key findings, again, we went up 2%. As mentioned, the math also has shifted as far as what the assessment looks like over the last few years. Again, now at about 25 questions, and a performance task is what the kids have been participating in most recently. And we'll see that repeat this year as well. And in our next steps, again, that scheduling piece, making sure that we have at least 70 minutes for that core math. And we've got a math curriculum that we adopted during COVID, or just before COVID started. So we spent a lot of time last year getting teams back into that to build that cadence back up, and we saw some of that evidence in that growth. Continue to use those same formative assessments, continue to kind of differentiate our instruction with different supports. And then this last one, just to unpack a little more, last school year, one of the things we did when we brought principals and instructional coaches together once a month for their professional development was really focused on what does it look like in a classroom for every kid and every learner and their entry point. And the team decided part of that is the discourse. What does it look like if we verbally process out loud our thinking in mathematics together in a safe place to take those risks and get a little stronger in our understanding? And it's really impressive to see the work that took place back at the school level and in the classroom level, where I think before, maybe even my experience in math, right, like would I really have raised my hand if I didn't know, versus we now have kids, I got a question, I got a stuck point, I need help, right, like just shifting where it's safe to be that math learner. And so although we are talking about SBA, we fully recognize this is just one small snapshot that happens in spring, not necessarily a reflection of the 180 days of grind that we see kids and teachers really focusing on to pull that knowledge out of kids.
Well, thank you for explaining all that. I think one of the things that is apparent through this that's a little frustrating is all the shifting in the state test, which means that it's apples and oranges. You're comparing years to each other. Plus, I gather what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, that if that we introduced the math curriculum during COVID, but now it's taking hold, and now the kids are learning, learning it, the teachers are learning it, and we've seen a bump.
Correct.
So we can hopefully expect a bump with our new English language arts curriculum, maybe in a year or two, where we see after the kids have been doing it and the teachers. So you'll see that we've taken the proactive step to move towards a better methodology for engaging these kids.
Right, and that's a long game when we do the adoption, right?
Yep.
So certainly that's the first kind of
First
infused
step, yep.
opportunity, right? The training that comes with it and the time on task to just, how do I make sense of not only where are my learners that are sitting in front of me this year, that learn at different rates, think a little different than maybe the group I had last year, and I now have different materials, but I still have this bank of strategies that I can use to also engage those kids. And so we have other things like our iReady that we use, but even in the CAP, we really have pushed this down to just in this unit for the next 2, maybe 4 weeks, what is it you're going to focus on for which kids to get them further down that path. And so that's, I believe, what we watch is the most exciting part of the work that teachers do.
Cool. Anybody have any questions?
I noticed
Director
Superintendent
Keating.
No, Superintendent was trying
Biting
to
my
talk.
lips. Go ahead, Director Keating. I would just, I'd like to, I think it's important that as we talk about one piece of data that we contextualize it. Michelle, you still teaching kindergarten? First grade. So these third graders came in as preschoolers in 2019. March 13th of 2019, they left school. 2020, they would have been kindergartners in that experience. And we know our youngest learners developmentally, that's the biggest impact time. When we know from the first 5 years is the biggest impact time. So as teachers like Michelle have this Herculean task of mixing science and artistry and relationships all together. In 2021, they would have been first graders, right? So we're still in this COVID time in there. Not all kids learn at the same rate at the same time. This is a standardized test that measures where they were on that day. But if you're a family member, what's most important is you're staying closely connected to your classroom teacher and saying, how's my child's growth happening in that spirit of that? Where is that looking like? We are a pre-K through 12, and now that we do dual credit and college and high school, it's even beyond 12. Every student has to meet graduation requirements, the same graduation requirements across the state. Our classroom teachers, our support staff, I feel at the high level of confidence across the board are looking at this and saying, here's a moment in time, and how do we build off this moment in time? But they also know how to reach each kid where they are in that spirits. Every school in the state of Washington is required to do a school improvement plan. We call ours the CAP process. It meets the same requirements. What we're trying to do is make sure that those that are working closely with children in that moment have a chance to say, what is our intentional plan and what that step is. And I know it can be frustrating even with narratives and saying, oh, well, what's going on? What's going on? But you can look at that trajectory across the state, and there are some limitations with standardized tests. It's important that we don't ignore them, but it's also important that we contextualize them and that we have multiple benchmarks in this supports. And so we will continue to be relentless on trying to figure out how can we do more, better, but most importantly, where are our kids today, not the kids yesterday, but the kids that we have today, and what is our next intentional step with them to help them develop to be the best learner that they can be.
I do actually have a question, but
Dr. Keating.
I could tell you had some things to say. Zeke, I thought I heard you say that there were more students taking the tests. Do we know or have a percentage of the students that have opted out? Because I know that that impacts these percentages.
Correct, and I can definitely send that to you from a specific count. And we definitely saw it the first year coming out of COVID, but even last spring, we saw more students participating in the exam. So I think just that, I won't say normal, but as we get back into some of our routines, we are seeing some of that participation level out.
Thank you.
So from a percentage perspective, the gray was those that
Yeah.
did not have a test or did not complete a test, correct?
Did not complete a test. Now, some of our level 1 students may have started and not completed and therefore get a 1. So they didn't opt out necessarily, but didn't finish.
Got it.
So
Thank you.
4 and 6%, I think.
Well, yeah, but my question was more specifically, I know that we've had families who have
Correct.
opted out their students, so I was asking specifically about that
Right.
portion, and also understanding that if a student is an English language learner and they don't understand the test and they can't take the test, that's still a 0. And so there's just some nuances.
Right.
So I was just curious about where that trend is in terms of last year.
Right.
Thanks.
Yeah, we can break that down.
Thanks.
Either of you guys have a question for Zeke? Okay. Well, thank you for your comments and Superintendent for your additions, and appreciate that. And we look forward to hearing more about how this progresses. All right. Item number 9, members of the public wishing to address the board. So, school board members encourage public participation. Your civil input is appreciated. Board members will not respond to your comments during the meeting. The superintendent or a designee may follow up with you after the meeting if action is needed. And instead of speaking in a meeting, you may also send an email to the board at board@tacoma.k12.wa.us. And please contact the board office in advance of the meeting if you need a disability accommodation. So there are 2 ways that we can make public comment. One is verbally tonight, and as many of you are here to do. And another way is, option 2 is the written comment. And attached to the board agenda are the written comments that were received prior to the cutoff time of 24 hours, I think it is, prior to the board meeting. So you'll see that those 3 are on there, and if you're interested, you can click on and see what folks had to say. And so I'm going to turn it over to our general counsel, who will run this part of the meeting around the verbal comments.
Yes, public comment proceeds under Board Policy 1430. Under Board Policy 1430, the board president may terminate an individual's comments when the allotted time has passed. There's a counter that'll be visible on the left. And may interrupt a speaker to require the same standard of civility the board imposes on itself. You can find a summary of Board Policy 1430 on the back of the blue public comment cards in the lobby, and you can find the full text at tacomaschools.org. Our first public comment for this evening is Jason Struna.
I'm here to thank the teachers and staff who spoke out on behalf of Travis students, families, staff, and teachers at the last meeting. I'm also here to advocate for Travis students, families, staff, and teachers. I can provide a loud voice for those families who cannot attend tonight because they are working their second or third shift, or for parents who are too intimidated to speak on camera in front of a dais full of people they understand to be uncaring elites, or for staff and parents who are merely too exhausted from speaking to the board time and time again about the problems of the status quo it enforces. I owe it to the folks who spoke at meetings like this when my parents were working their second shifts. I owe it to the teachers who helped the son of a trucker and a hairdresser become a professor. I'm here to use my loud voice to remind the school board of some of the reasons that they might have decided to offer their time for a small stipend. I have no doubt that the board assembled here knows that hiding behind a policy of equality that focuses on all schools creates and reinforces inequities to the detriment of those students who need the most resources yet receive the least. I have no doubt that the board assembled here know that McKinney-Vento serving schools like Travis face very different staffing needs from all schools like Washington, Geiger, or Grant. And I have no doubt that the board knows that using algorithms or equations to make decisions is far from neutral. A wide range of research demonstrates that algorithms build on existing social biases. They don't neutralize them. Knowing that the board surely understands this makes their response to Travis teachers and staff at the last meeting all the more galling and frankly cruel. Last week, after viewing the school board meeting, I spoke with my son's teacher, Mr. Damian Tucker, alumnus of Whitman Elementary, also a Title I school, staff member at Travis since 2011, educator with 23 years experience, and TEA member. He shares my sentiments and was disappointed in the outrage displayed in the board's response, and was shocked, like the majority of families at Travis and other schools who viewed the recording of the last meeting, that the board would admonish his colleagues for advocating for Travis students, regardless of staff's social identities or standpoints. Mr. Tucker was proud of his colleagues for standing up and imploring the board to provide the resources Travis students and staff need to teach under circumstances very different from those in all Tacoma public schools. Again, I am here to remind the board that many of you allegedly volunteered to improve the learning conditions of students like the majority of those at Travis, working class students, students of color, and kids at the very bottom of the economic barrel. Some of you seem to be in this to change the status quo and to do the work that needs to be done to create equity for students in schools like Travis. I implore you to do the work you set out to do and stop hiding behind all schools and algorithms and provide Travis's already excellent staff the resources they need to teach all of our children, especially those considered the least among us. I eagerly await your non-response at the end of the meeting per your own policy as much as we, all Travis families and staff, await your action to help Travis. I have no doubt Edna Travis herself would say, "Show us your works."
Our next speaker is Betsy Kindblade.
Hi, I'm Betsy Kinblade. My son is a second grade student at Travis Elementary. I'm here to ask the superintendent and the board to look beyond equations, look beyond algorithms, and treat schools equitably, not equally. I'm asking you to provide the Title I resources that schools like Travis not only desperately need, but that they are legally required to. I ask that you follow the spirit of the state and federal law, not just the letter. I also want to thank our teachers. They rock.
Our next speaker is Michelle Cooper.
22% of students ages 12 to 18 have experienced bullying. This number is probably not accurate, as 1 out of 10 students will only admit it, and actually only 46% of students ever tell an adult at their school. We know that bullying is a national problem. It has serious ramifications affecting a child for up to 4 decades. Whether it's verbal, social, or physical, this needs to be more seriously addressed and correctly handled at our schools. It's not enough to say that we don't tolerate it. What are we doing to help prevent it? How are we showing that bullying is not acceptable in our schools? I have been told and even promised that my son would be protected against a bully who picked on him all of 6th grade. It wasn't until I tried to come to a school board meeting during COVID and couldn't come because I didn't realize I needed to register that something actually happened. That student was not at his school last year. We weren't aware of that. Liam had an amazing year. But the beginning of this school year, he was met with that same bully who picked up a stick and harassed several students, picking on them on their heads and trying to jump over them. When we addressed the school, they said that they were on it. I was promised, again, that my son would be protected. On October 6th, towards the end of the day, this bully took advantage of the fact that there was a substitute teacher. He went over to my son with another student who was his normal accomplice to bully him, body shamed him, called him a racial slur, and invited him into a slap boxing, which is a physical, offense. Unfortunately, my son, who did not feel brave enough to tell his teacher at the time, who did not protect him and enforce the no contact rule, only told me after we left school. I called the school immediately. My kids' father went down to the school. We tried again to work with the school to make a plan, but it is disheartening when we continue to comply with the school rules and the school policies and my son is not protected. He has chosen for his own safety, for his own mental health, to not be at that school moving forward. I'm here as an advocate, not just for my son, but for other students who don't have the bravery and don't have the support to stand up and say, this is happening. We know that when kids are bullied, that they can be so tormented and feel so alone and so unsupported that it can lead to bully suicide. Or it can lead to them being so enraged, so unheard, that we have numerous of schools who are attacked by these students, and it ends up being a Columbine situation. I'm here to ask the board, how can we improve what we do in response to bullying? I've read documents. I've seen what your policies are, but when they're not enforced, and when students don't have the voice, and teachers are overwhelmed with their class loads, how can we help them? And so I'm just asking the board, can we do something more? Can we have a contract that parents and students sign every year saying, we will not tolerate this? And then there's a greater paper trail to enforce discipline. I want this to be something that we focus on together, not just for my son. He's not going to be at that school because he doesn't feel safe, but for other kids who need advocacy. Thank you.
Okay, our last speaker this evening is Janelle Walter.
Sorry for my friend. My name is Janelle Walter. I'm a mom of 3. One who is Edna Travis alumni, one who is a current Edna Travis student, and one future TPS student. I was a single parent living in poverty for over a decade. It was during that time we landed at Travis, and it felt like home. I won't go into detail because reliving that trauma is not why I'm here. I mention it because though I tried to shield them from the trauma, my kids couldn't help but feel the impact of a single-parent household. Of eviction notices on the door, of long bike rides I disguised as a health challenge because I didn't want them to worry that our car had been repossessed. I was a single parent, but I can't say that I raised my kids alone. Last meeting, you met many of the Edna Travis staff who were there for my family when we needed them the most. They were here to advocate for the children. I'm right here. They were here to advocate for the children they know and love and for the families who simply can't make it to a 6 p.m. meeting. just like they were there for us when we needed them the most, to ensure that our cupboards were never bare, that coats always came before the cold. They're there at Saturday morning soccer games and always going above and beyond for their students, and I bet if you ask them, our family was not even on their list of the most in need. I found a career that allowed me to dig my family out of poverty, and as a proud union carpenter, one of our first rules of the trade is to choose the right tool for the job. My employer is contractually obligated to provide certain tools. They voluntarily provide specialty tools if there is a special task required because they're heavily invested in the quality of my work. I can build almost anything with whatever is lying around, but the quality of the work reflects the improvisation, and our clients expect better than good enough. Travis staff is consistently improvising because they have an employer that does not provide them with the right tools to do their job. They are building futures with whatever they can muster, but they can't make up for inadequate staffing for the lack of specialty tools. At the risk of their mental health, at the risk of burnout, they fight so hard not to risk the quality of education our kids receive. And if love were enough, Travis students would be the most academically advanced in the country. But it's not. We need resources. Combining classrooms into the year causes harm. Pulling necessary staff from our school causes disruption and harm. And due to the unique demographic of our student population, we might even require more resources than other schools. That's what equity looks like. A commitment to prioritizing students most in need, as stated in your strategic plan. This is an equity issue. This is a labor issue. This is an injustice, and our students and the working class people tasked with their education deserve better. Thank you.
Madam President, Dr. Nolan's going to walk outside for those family members and staff members that are here and walk through some of the staffing conversations that have taken place at Edna Travis. Review how you folks have charged the staff to have equitable staffing, which is not equal, and to look at some of those pieces. So for those that would like to go through that a little more, Dr. Nolan will be back in the back to answer those questions.
Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, Dr. Nolan. So for those that are interested, Dr. Nolan's prepared to meet with you. Thank you. And so,
He said perhaps at the end of the meeting.
oh, okay. So,
We'll just move forward.
okay, so, thank you. We'll do this later. General Counsel, is there anybody else left to speak?
We have one that we'll take at the beginning of the study, public comment at the 26th meeting.
Okay. So is there anybody else here who would like to speak that hasn't had a chance? Okay. All right, hearing none. We will move on to, was there somebody else? Oh, yes. Oh, somebody.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm the parent of a second grader and a first grader at Edna Travis. I live in Hilltop. I love Hilltop. It's a great neighborhood. I know that, yeah, it's got its issues. One of the issues that I don't want my children and the children at the school to have to face is the ability to actually receive an education. I went on a second grade field trip as a chaperone, and the things I saw were frankly disturbing. Lots of behavioral issues that needed to be addressed, and I felt for the teachers, especially my daughter's second grade teacher. This is her, I want to say, 6th year teaching, maybe 3rd year, I can't exactly remember what, but she's new, she's green, she's great, she's young, she's a person of color, she reflects the majority of the body of the school. I really enjoy her, she's great, and I don't want to lose her. And she needs support desperately. So I'm pleading for paras, teacher's assistants, anything, just another body in the classroom so that the kids can actually learn. And all that being said, I mean, the staff at Edna Travis is some of the best staff I've ever come into contact with. And I'm so grateful that they're in our neighborhood and in our community. Am I going over the time? And So yeah, just paras, a teacher's assistant, another special ed professional. I hear that we're down one, which is insane because then the caseloads there's just an immense amount of work that this one person has to do, and that's unfair. And I don't think it's legal, but it's mostly unfair. Yeah, I just want equity for the students at Edna Travis. Thanks.
All right, thank you all for coming this evening and sharing your perspectives. We appreciate it. All right, item number 10, the consent agenda. So we'll have a motion for the consent agenda.
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, questions about the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0. Item 11, policy matters. And I'm going to turn this back over to our general counsel. We have 3 policy matters tonight, and 11.1 is the second reading of revised policy 1430, which is public comment.
Yes, the general counsel recommends the board of directors adopt the revised proposal of policy 1430.
Do we have a motion?
Move to adopt.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or question on this policy? We've talked about this. It's gone through the policy equity policy review team, and the changes have been made, as you saw in the red line. And no comments or questions. I call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, passes 5-0. Item 11.2, second reading of policy 4311, school safety and security services program.
The general counsel recommends the board of directors adopt the revised proposal of the new policy 4311.
Okay,
Move to adopt.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. General counsel, do you want to give us a little background about what the changes are to this one?
Yeah, certainly. So this is a new policy. OSBI passed a law that required school districts to spell out the apparatus of its safety and security departments. And specifically, if the school district used SROs, school resource officers, which are commissioned law enforcement officers to provide security services, to spell out what that program looks like. So the district doesn't use SROs at this time, so we don't have that section in there, but we added the sections in there that refer to school security generally. So these are staff that are employed by the Tacoma School District. You can see them in, we have them at all levels, including officers that rove between sites. And so what this does is it spells out those commitments that by law we're required to spell out for the first time in how these staff operate, and spell out the difference between issues that would be handled by educators, school discipline issues, and then other issues that present more of a safety concern, which would be handled by school security. So that's what this 4311 is.
Okay, thank you. So it's a new policy that helps us stay in consistent with the law, and also explains better how we here at Tacoma Public Schools manage this. Any comments or questions for the general counsel? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0. Our last one is 11.3, second reading of revised policy 6973, the acceptable use policy for digital resources.
The general counsel, on behalf of our chief information officer, recommends the board of directors adopt the revised proposal for policy 6973.
I move to adopt item 11.3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. General counsel, do you want to go in a little deeper on this one too?
Yes, so this is an already existing policy that spells out acceptable use of district digital resources. So these are things like the laptops we have given out to each student. This is also the tech infrastructure, so using of the internet and those kinds of services. And it's an update from the COVID period, which was the last time that we had done work on this policy, that spells out a more accurate, so the last time was in April of 2020, and that had, right in the middle of the COVID period, had kind of spelled out, this is how we look at use of electronic resources then. So now that we're, 3 years post, April 2020, this is sort of like how it'll look going forward. And so we have some changes. You can see in that third paragraph down, They talk about applying rules against harassment, intimidation, bullying, anti-racism, discrimination, and safety and civility, applying those rules which are written more for in-person type interactions in schools, that we apply those to digital resources so that those rules apply if students on the computer rather than engaging in a face-to-face conversation.
Thank you. Any comments or further comments or questions on this? And I will state again that all three of these did pass through the Policy Equity Review team, which is made up of community partners representative of our diverse community here in Tacoma. And they've all made great additions to each of these three policies, and this one, as well. All right, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Okay, 5-0. We have three new or revised policies. Thank you, General Counsel and your team, for all your hard work on this. Item 12, the financial report. The district's next quarterly financial report is planned for November 9th, 2023. Monthly financial statements can also be found on the district's website at https://www.tacomaschools.org/departments/business and finance. Item 13, curriculum and instruction. The approval of contract number TSD 23-150 with College Board for AP testing.
The Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning recommends that the Board of Directors approve the College Board contract TSD 23-150 in the amount of $250,000. Funding source, highly capable students assessment, basic ed assessment.
I move to adopt 13.1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0. Thank you, Zeke. Number 14, business matters. 14.1, approval of amendment number 1 to interlocal agreement number 2, South Puget Sound Maritime Skills Center and Port Maritime Center Planning and Development.
The Executive Director of Planning and Construction for the Chief Operations Officer recommends the Board of Directors approve the interlocal agreement for the initial design phase of the South Puget Sound Maritime Skills Center and Port Maritime Center Planning and Development.
I move to adopt item 14.1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have comments or questions, or do you have other explanations you want to give for that? Morris?
What this is an agreement between both Tacoma Public Schools and the Port of Tacoma and how we're going to divide fees on the early stages. So we've gone through, our two teams come together, look at all the line items, and then come to an agreement as far as what the equitable share was for each one of those line items that we'll be covering in our last agenda item tonight.
Thank you, Morris. Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, it passes 5-0. 14.2, the approval of guaranteed maximum price GMP amendment number 7 to the contract between Tacoma Public Schools number 10 and Corsmo Construction for the Synthetic Fields Upgrade Bundle Project.
The Executive Director of Planning and Construction for the Chief Operations Officer recommends that the Board of Directors approve GMP Amendment Number 7, which states that the guaranteed maximum price for scope of work for the Peck Park baseball field. The Chief Operations Officer also recommends that the Board authorize the Superintendent or designee to sign said GMP Amendment Number 7 in the amount of $453,895 for a total GMP amendments 1 through 7 of $26,710,218, excluding sales tax, funding source, capital projects bonds as approved in February 11th, 2020.
I move to adopt item 14.2.
Okay, it's been moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, questions for Morris on this one? Straightforward. All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0. Item 14.3, approval to award contract with BN Builders for the pre-construction design build service for the South Puget Sound Maritime Skills Center and Port Maritime Center Planning and Development Project.
It is a mouthful.
It is, wow.
The Executive Director of Planning and Construction for the Chief Operations Officer recommends that the Board of Directors approve the initial design build service agreement for the pre-design and schematic design phases of the Puget Sound South Puget Sound Maritime Skills Center and the Port Maritime Planning and Development. The total value of the fees is $3,616,724, excluding sales tax. Funding is provided through the capital bond issue as provided by the voters in February 11th, 2020.
I move to adopt 14.3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on this one? Nope. Hearing none.
If you don't mind, I would like to add, just so that everyone knows, that of that amount, the district, we will actually pay the full fee and we will be reimbursed. Our portion of that fee is $1,322,127.
Okay. So thank you for that clarification. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, Morris. We passed 5-0.
Thank you.
Item 14.4, approval of contract number TSD-23-148 between Questica Ltd. and Tacoma Public Schools to provide budget software for Tacoma Public School District Number 10.
The Chief Financial Officer recommends that the Board of Directors authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract with Questica Limited for their budget suite application not to exceed $214,000 plus sales tax, funding source, basic education, and capital technology levy.
I move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on this one? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0. Other business, item number 15.1, first reading of resolution number 2130, authorizing the form of the ballot, proposition, and other matters concerning submission to the voters at a special election to be held on February 13th, 2024.
The Chief Financial Officer recommends that the Board of Directors review the draft proposal of the first reading of resolution number 2130 and provide feedback before the second reading.
Move to adopt. Do we move that? No.
Yeah,
We move it.
we have to move it.
Oh, okay, I move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, it's been
I
moved.
got nervous, sorry.
No, that's okay. It's been moved and seconded. So any questions or comments on this one? This is to put the bond measure on the ballot in February.
So last week you saw some pieces that will go into potentially Prop 1, our proposed bond measure for neighborhood school improvements and safety upgrades. So I think it would be good for us, and I know Rosalind's brought you the actual draft of this for the first reading, and then in 2 weeks you'll have a chance to hear or move it forward or decide not to in your formal action. Just a couple things that are reminders. This would go on to the February 2024 ballot for our citizens to consider. It renews our commitment to every child in every neighborhood, and you saw a little bit of that and how it's approaching each neighborhood to invest in that community. It will replace or renovate 11 aging and deteriorating schools. It'll also touch nearly every other school in some capacity across the board. Those schools will receive needed improvements and safety upgrades, take care of basic things like roof repairs, mechanical upgrades, and buildings. Just to remind you that the state does not fund those projects for our community. Since 2013, our community has supported in the replacement of more than 20 buildings in numerous projects, and we're extremely thankful. There's a direct impact to how our students are feeling and supported, and you know that those buildings are used all day, all the time, on the weekends by community as well. I think it's safe to say that they have, although there's no causation, there is a correlation in our increasing our graduation rates, solid partnerships with other community partners to invest in their services that help us reach our kids, and supports for students outside the traditional four-year path of maybe higher ed institution into career and technical education programs, and we're excited to do that. It's not lost on me what we have done together as a community, and it truly is a community. It's not just the schools, it's not just the community, it's us working together, and this type of investment makes a difference. I just want to say, and I mentioned it a little bit last time, but when our community invests in our students, they do better, and that's really important and very important for us. And then lastly, you saw how our team was reinvesting back in the community with these projects. And that is our ongoing commitment, is that we know that we have to make sure that with that community investment, we reinvest in Pierce County and in Tacoma in the labor force and the supports. So I'd hand it off to Rosalind to see if there's anything else that you'd like to add.
Yeah, just a couple things. Thank you. Proposition 1 is a $650 million neighborhood school improvement and safety upgrades bond measure. It's going to be bonds that are issued and they mature over a 25-year period, a maximum of 25 years. So some bonds we would pay back over a shorter period of time, but certainly not over a 25-year period. It makes necessary improvements to nearly every school so that those schools last longer and save money in the long run. And I want to make sure that you understand that this resolution was developed by a cross-departmental team within the district, as well as in concert with our bond counsel and our financial advisors. If Proposition 1 is approved on a resolution by you when we bring it back for a second reading on October 26th, then it would be approved by voters, hopefully. And if voters do approve it, then the increased cost to the average Tacoma homeowner is anticipated to be $7.53 per month, or $90 per year, when you compare the average home values and tax rates for the last 5 years to the next 5 years. So remembering that there are lots of factors that go into those calculations, and this is the best estimate that we have at the point in time. So that's what I had to present to you. Thanks.
Okay, so, so we're bringing it back on the 26th, not the 13th or whatever the second one in October, first one in October is?
So this is the first reading in October, and then the second meeting in October will be on the 26th.
Well, you know what? I missed one meeting, and my mind, I let 2 weeks of my life just gone. Okay, never mind. It's the next meeting. Wow. Okay.
You don't have to vote. You don't have to vote on this one, President Barbara.
Yeah, I know. It's a first reading. So, so great. So thank you for that. We will see it in 2 weeks, and we will vote on it then. And if any of you have further questions or want more details, please reach out to Rosalind and.
And in addition to that, if you have any comments or thoughts on the resolution itself, please feel free to use me as the resource to ensure that those get incorporated into the resolution.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so 15.2, adoption of a resolution 2131, identifying authorized signers for district bank accounts.
Thank you. The Chief Financial Officer recommends that the Board of Directors adopt resolution number 2131 and approve the updated list of the employees who can authorize transactions on these accounts, and authorize the superintendent and/or designee to approve the plan.
I move to adopt item 15.2.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. And Rosalind, do you want to just explain what's just a changing in staff? And yes.
Correct, yes. Director of Finance, Rob Bryant, vacated his position to go take a CFO role in another school district, and we're proud and happy for him. With that means that we have hired a new Director of Finance. Her name is Veronica Birdsong, and we have added her on to our accounts now so that we can make sure that we can all access what we need to access in order to pay the bills.
Super important.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, anyone have any comments or questions for Rosalind about this item? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
It's a resolution.
Oh, never mind.
Sorry.
We're going to read the roll.
We're doing great.
I know.
President Barbara, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice President Stroger, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Leon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Keating, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director McElroy, how do you vote?
Aye.
The resolution passes 5-0.
Thank you. And that is the end of the business part of the meeting, other than the board comments. So I will ask if any of you would like to start sharing today.
I'm happy to go.
All right, Director Keating.
I'm always first.
I know. I'm
We have to
switching it
share.
up. There's a lunar eclipse on Saturday.
Oh, okay.
So we're going
I
to
guess
change it
it's
up a little
fair.
bit. So I had the Traffic and Safety Committee meeting happened yesterday. And I know it's a little ways out, but an exciting event that our partner at the city had shared is that there will be on November 14th is a National Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day. And Manitou Elementary is, according to the information I have, so Superintendent, I hope you correct me if this is not right. The Manitou will be the first school in TPS to celebrate this day of celebration and dialogue with a walk to school. And then also Fern Hill is participating, and they'll be reading, both schools will be reading Ruby Bridges and also Nicholas Smith's book, I Am Ruby Bridges. And there's an encouragement to walk to school by the Fern Hill community. And so I'm going to be participating in the Manitou walk. because that sounds really cool and fun. And so it's a little bit ways out, but I just thought that it was a really great example of one of the partnerships and with the city and how that is coming to fruition. And then what was the other? Oh, and then on Tuesday, well, actually last week, I had visited Hilltop Artists at Hilltop Heritage, and they had a group, a cohort of fellows from the Annie E. Casey Foundation from all across the country, and they were here to learn about Hilltop Artists and the partnerships, and so they were folks from all kinds of regions or nonprofit sectors and education. So it was really interesting and pretty cool to sit and watch, just spend time with them and learn where they were, learn about their work, and then also the staff for the Annie E. Casey Foundation Fellows Program. I spent quite a bit of time with them, and they all got to try out making different kinds of glass, and watching the student production team and the staff at Hilltop Artists teach and create some pretty cool projects was just a really fun event. And then Hilltop Artists also had their annual luncheon on Tuesday, which I was the keynote for, and I want to give out a really big shout out to our students. There were a number of students who helped with the luncheon, organize the auction, and set everything up and support everybody. And they worked really hard that day. And then I also want to really acknowledge our students, Eddie and Ashley, who were two of the speakers at the luncheon. They'd never given a public speech before, and they were very powerful, amazing, and really talked about the importance of what Hilltop Artists has brought to them as students. And so it was it was a packed house. I think there was over 500 people at the luncheon. So it was just a really special highlight of one of our really powerful partnerships that we have in the district. And then I think the other thing I was going to mention is the community open house for Fawcett is next week, I think the 25th. So I'm looking forward to that. And
Did you say November 14th was the walk to school? Ruby?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So.
And I'm assuming it's, okay.
Yep.
Great.
Perfect. That's what I got.
We're going to, hang on. Do you want to have your comments? It's all right, she can go last today.
They're all trying, look, Corey, he sees my brain. It's at work. All right, Corey. So, are you cool with me going? Director Schroeder, Vice President Schroeder. All right, so what occurred at the last board meeting, you were absent, President Von Bright, is we had some folks come from Edna Travis and talk about the concerns and disparities there. And I made comments towards the end of the meeting talking about my personal experiences at Edna Travis back when it was McCarver, and then also talking about just like who I am as a person and who I am in community. But then another thing that I did in my board role, immediately following the meeting, I emailed the principal and I set up a tour of the school and I set up time to speak alone with students and some faculty. And then also while I was there, I did meet with some parents as well, 3 parents, 4 5th grade students, 1 principal, and I met with all the staff along the way as they took me on a very long tour of the building that was supposed to be about 30 minutes, but because we have 5th graders in the room, you know what happened. We were there for 2.5 hours. So I really wanted to take the time to notice, like, what is my job as a board director? My primary function is to hire, supervise, and evaluate the superintendent, set the vision, mission, and strategic goals of the district, and review and revise and adopt policies. So I also asked the principal and 2 of the staff that I met with while I was at Edna Travis, what are some policies you'd like us to look at that I can send to the Equity Policy Review Board that we can review, revise, and possibly adopt to figure out what's going on at that school and how we can actually get to an equitable place in what is being perceived as an inequity. But I also then reached out to Deputy Superintendent and I asked Lisa Nolan here and I was like, hey, what is going on at Edna Travis? Can you tell me about the classroom numbers? Can you tell me about the climate? All these things, because that's my job. So that's what I did. After hearing from the constituents that there was a problem, I jumped on it. But also I took the time to notice who stays in the rooms and who doesn't stay in the room and how do we open conversations. So a big thing in momentum building and movement building is to identify your ally and identify your adversary. So the comments I made at the last board meeting were not to point myself as an adversary of Edna Travis, but also as an ally of this district, an ally of that school, of the parents, of the students. And I did everything in my power to be the best ally that I could be as the board director who's assigned to Edna Travis. and I'm assuming that's why we're staying till the end of the meeting. And I apologize, Deputy Superintendent, and I can't wait to be in the room with you as you talk about the disparities, the equity, and the policies that we'll be doing from Tacoma Public Schools and how we can help this school. Is that what we're meeting with folks to talk about today?
Certainly, we'll have an opportunity to illuminate equities and approaches that are designed to support Edna Travis as well as other schools in the district.
Okay, I can't wait to listen in because I know you're one of those experts, and that's what I really love about this district, is that we have experts in the room who can give us the data that we need, that we can make informed and better decisions.
Okay, thanks. All right. Gentlemen, either of you have a report?
Thanks for those comments. I think you may have seen the last meeting.
Yeah, I watched it.
I watched those things. So I appreciate students, or actually parents, teachers, everyone that's come the past couple meetings to talk about this topic. So I know that we all know that there have been some previous accommodations made to try to make an equitable environment at all of the schools that exist. This hasn't been perfect everywhere. Things still need to be adjusted and changed, I think. And I know that superintendent's staff are working towards doing that. It sounds like there was a presentation that Dr. Nolan has to give to some of the members that are here. I don't know if they want to hear that right now, or we've seen some of the accommodations, the numbers, the calculations that have been made to try to make things equitable. If things still aren't equitable anywhere, in any school, then I know your staff is working to try to work on that. So if this is, at some point you offered to meet with them, if it's outside or if it's with other folks watching, whatever the best time is, I think that could be determined now, because it may be a good time to do it while folks are still here. But I know that your group is trying your best to distribute the resources in a way that really allows for equity. I know that it's not, we all know that it's not perfect everywhere right now. And I appreciate your efforts to go to that school and put so much work to meet with those students and those teachers, and I'm sure that's helped a lot. I know that this is a difficult topic, and that's not the only school that is probably experiencing something that they want to improve upon. So I do think it's something that we take very seriously, and you do too. So as you mentioned, this is not our role to make these changes, right? It is our role to set the vision, and then the superintendent staff makes the adjustments as they see fit, working with the staff. So that is not something we do as board members here. So.
Okay. Vice President Strozier?
Hey, I'm back from Indiana. I was in Indiana from October 3rd through the 6th at the launch summit with Roz Medina. I almost called her, and she earned a nickname when we were there. And Adam. Completely appropriate, guys. And the summit itself provided us an opportunity to build and strengthen relationships with peers from different states committed to strengthening innovative pathways for students. So we spent time setting goals and action steps and priorities as state teams. I believe there were 11 states present, including us, maybe, obviously the best state there. We had a chance to hear from leading voices in education as it related to career pathways and deepen relationships with folks from other states, and spent time dedicated to reflect on progress and then chart the work ahead. This is like a continuing thing that's been in motion since February that Adam has been knee deep in, and it was great to be able to go and experience and kind of see some of the work that had been laid out as it relates to building innovative pathways for young people. So that was a good time. And today, it was Anti-Bullying Month, and today I spent time at Mason with the Mason Mustangs. They asked me to come and speak at the See Something, Say Something assembly that ASB led. It was a great time. They spent time recommitting as a school to stop bullying and be great. Like that was the theme. So it was an honor to share space with the 500 to 600 students that are there. They were amazing. They were engaged. They were attentive. And just a huge shout out to Mr. Aiken, Ms. Brown, who actually reached out to me when I was in Indiana and asked me to speak. And I was like, I don't know if I can commit to that because that's like right after I get back. But she reached out, she laid out a plan, and it worked out. Mr. J was amazing. He received an award from us about, I think it was a year ago. Gold Star Award, and Ms. Dusterbeck, who took care of me when I was there. But all of the staff over at Mason are doing some amazing things. So it was a good day. And then I went to work, and then I came here. So here we are, and that's all I have.
Okay, great. All right. So item number 17, announcements of our next regular board meetings. Next,
Just, can I, one more thing that I forgot to say here, but also, I mean, part of my comment was an open question, I guess, to our assistant superintendent. Is that something we want to have a discussion about because people stayed?
that's right.
So-
After we end the meeting, there will be a meeting that
Okay.
they're having.
They're having a separate meeting?
Yes.
Okay, and that information will get disseminated to the rest of the folks at the school somehow?
There's been several
teachers.
meetings already, so this
Yeah.
is the folks that maybe weren't at the last meeting.
Right, okay, great. So as long as that information is getting to everybody at some point, great. Okay, just making sure that, thank you.
Okay. So the next meeting, next week, we will have a study session on Flex, Tacoma Flex, and on our legislative agenda for next year. So be right here at 6 p.m. On the 26th, we will have our next business meeting, again here, and as well November 9th as the business meeting, first business meeting in November. So if we don't have any more business to handle tonight, I officially adjourn this meeting.